We are now talking to athletic NBA staff writer and author of Spaced Out, Mike Prada. Mike, what's up, bud?
I'm good. I hope I don't get on your bad side. I hope you like the book and you don't go after me like you went after that last caller. Jesus, man.
You know what it is? I'm not attacking the call. I know the caller pretty well, and he for years since he was drafted, since Zach Wilson was drafted, he told me he's not going to be a good quarterback. How do you know that? Do you know all about the quarterback? When you're stepping outside of the pocket, you know about arm strength. Do you know about speed inside and out? There were a lot of people that thought Patrick Mahomes wasn't going to be any good. When you watch him play for Texas Tech, he wasn't a great quarterback in college. He stepped on an NFL field. He became a superstar. So you can't judge a book by its cover just because, hey, you know what? I saw him in college. He sucked. Or I played for BYU.
Was that a deliberate turn of phrase right there? Judge a book by its cover?
Yeah, I think so.
You judge? So have you judged my book by its cover?
Not yet, and I haven't had a chance. I haven't had a chance to read your book, but I will.
So you have judged it by its cover.
Nah, well, I know a little bit about you, Mike. I've read some of your stuff.
That sounds really foreboding.
I think you're a really good writer. You know your NBA. You really do.
Thank you.
You know your NBA, and I'm looking forward to reading your book. I heard a lot of good things about it. We had somebody on the show last week that spoke about it. Spoke very highly of you as a person and as a personality. So very happy to have you on. How are you doing? With all the craziness over the last couple of years with the COVID and the crazy political stuff that's going on, how are you doing?
I think I'm doing good. As good as we all can be, given these times.
So why don't we get into your book first, and then we'll go into the NBA and your thoughts of some of the teams, the New York teams, and all the craziness that are going on. I know it's early in the season; anything could happen. Tell us a little bit about how did this book come along. First of all, what gave you the thought to write a book like this and really bring it to that forefront as a writer, obviously for The Athletic, and really you've been writing for the NBA for all these years.
Yeah, no, it was a book that Triumph the publisher kind of pitched me. They wanted me to do a book on kind of how do you watch basketball a little bit smarter. And, to your point earlier about what do we know about anything? What do we know about quarterbacks? What do I know about how someone should watch basketball smarter? It seemed a little too kind of high-minded for me. So I kind of tweaked the pitch a little bit. I thought that this era was a really important one. I think that we have sort of missed the central point here, which is, okay, it's about the threes, but really it's about we basically double the court size without adding more players to fill it. So I wanted to kind of write a book about how we got to this point to kind of illustrate how these last 8 years really have just been the greatest transformation in basketball since the shot clock. And that was kind of the genesis of it, I think, to make it more about space. And, it is about the three-point revolution, but it's really about what the effect of adding that space is. So kind of started from there. And it was something I've been thinking about for quite a while. And just was a matter of trying to figure out what parts needed to be in there and what didn't, because this book could have been 1,000 pages, 10,000 pages, 100,000 pages. And so, where do you cannot possibly tell the story with everyone. So what exactly is the narrative through line? And that was kind of what it came down to. This is about we're in 2022 now. Sorry that all the time kind of blends together these last.
Don't mention the years because I feel even older when you
2060, obviously.
I'd rather it be 2060. We'll have flying cars.
You just celebrated your 21st birthday. Congratulations.
If I was 21 again, could you imagine?
This has all been taking place over the course of 2 years now. So that's kind of where it came about, and just a matter of I feel like we're kind of in a moment where we're coming out of this great revolution. I think nobody had really taken stock of what exactly happened and how it changed the sport, and so I wanted to try to do that.
So before I get to my question, I just want to bring up what Errol mentioned earlier. We actually had your counterpart at The Athletic, Tyler Baptiste, on last week. He was actually the one that I know you wanted to come
boss.
on. Yeah. I know you were the one that wanted to come on last week. He beat you to the spot for 5 minutes, but he actually mentioned your book in one of Errol's questions. So that's why he brought it up.
I hear you talking about. Yeah, Tyler's great.
Yes. So I just wanted to tell you that was the coincidence. So I wanted to talk about it from a perspective of isolation basketball versus ball movement. The analytics now in today's NBA emphasize a lot more with the ball movement too, but we still have a lot of players that still want to be isolation players, want to create their own shot. So where do you draw the line when it comes to the spacing element of what you mentioned in your book when it comes to those two concepts?
It's almost like kind of a false premise type of question to me. What it really comes down to is every play's got to start going somewhere. You have to create an advantage, whether it's create an advantage by taking one guy and putting him against a bad defender and trying to get him off the dribble to kind of create those dominoes afterwards, or if it's a pick and roll, or if it's any sort of play, at what point do you turn 5-on-5 into 5-on-4, 4-on-3, 3-on-2? And what's really changed is that's kind of how the game has always been. What's really changed is now you're kind of taking those 10 people and you're putting them on a much larger space because you've created every part of the court beyond the 3-point line is now fair game for a shot, for play, for anything. And you've kind of essentially expanded the court. So, something like to say like kind of ball movement is triggered. I mean, in some ways it's sort of easier to move the ball when you're playing on a wider surface, so I think that's kind of what it comes down to. And it's a lot more about kind of instead of trying to jam the ball to the rim through like post ups or, like a battering ram, you're now abdicating the space around the basket and then charging it. And whether you're charging it in the form of a drive, a one-on-one drive, a pick and roll, any other sort of form of offense, it's really about that. And then it's just easier to kind of ping, move the ball around out of that sort of once you create that advantage because there's more space on the floor. And so in many ways, the last 8 years some of it is about kind of the play style. How do you break down the defense to create that? But a lot more of it, I think, is about what happens when it is 5-on-4 in a situation, or when you have created advantage. How do you mitigate the advantage? How do you amplify the advantage? And that's, kind of what this has been about. So I don't know if there's really, I mean, in some ways that's kind of it's almost like kind of a false premise to say, I think, not to, totally poo-poo your question.
Oh, poo-poo it.
It's sort of a false premise because it's just a matter of what you do once you create the advantage. There are a lot of ways to do it, and then there are a lot of ways to try to take advantage of it. And I think when you kind of get people to spread out more, it's just easier to kind of cascade that ball movement all the way through the game because there's just more space to move the ball.
We are talking to athletic NBA staff writer and author of Spaced Out, Mike Prada. It's so funny. We talk about Steph Curry a lot on the show. I am not a Steph Curry fan. Never was. When he was drafted, obviously from Davidson, and I did want him to be a Knick, and I thought he would really change.
So that's what.
No, that's not why. That's not why.
Okay.
That's not why.
That's really it.
That's not why.
Okay.
That's not why. I thought when he came into the league and the way the game was going, I really liked the way the game was played in the late 90s and early 2000s. It was transitioning, and the 3-point really started to get out of control when Steph Curry came into the league. And then you're obviously with Thompson there and really with the Golden State Warriors, they changed the league. And it really, I believe, ruined the game because everybody is throwing 35, 43s every single game. And probably most of the time they're shooting under 50%, some of them. And to me, that is not the way the NBA game was fun. That wasn't the way the NBA was played in the 90s, where I thought the game was so intriguing with the fadeaway jumpers and the big men, the Hakeem Olajuwons and the Mutombos and the Alonzo Mournings of the world. I thought the game was so much more fun to watch because there was there was a post game and you wanted to see that. Now you have these big men. You know what? It doesn't matter if they could shoot a 3 or not. As long as they're practicing, they're going to put it up there, in or not. I mean, Draymond Green was shooting a 3 the other day, and he's a power forward / center. I don't know how he's a center.
I'm sorry, is there a question in here?
No, but I'm telling you, it's ruined the game.
He'll get to it.
It's ruining the game, and I
understand.
understand.
I think you're the target audience for this book. I had an uncle. My uncle is a huge basketball fan.
There's only one thing Errol can't read.
Yes, I can.
More of an old school kind of basketball fan like you. He kind of liked the basketball back in the day a lot more.
Yeah.
And I have to admit that as I was writing this book, I kept picturing him as my target audience to be like, this is the type of person who would appreciate kind of reimagining what this game is about. It's not about just jacking threes. It's about what it's done to the geometry of the floor and how that has impacted it. And that was sort of my target audience. So I guess my answer to your non-question is I think you would really enjoy the kind of.
I'm going to read it
and reimagining
I'm going to read
what this is really about. I mean, the 3-point shot. That's really what the effect of the 3-point shot has done on the whole game, and how it's really not just about having everybody just jack these shots. It's about kind of creating the room and demonstrating
more
a threat
space,
to expand,
right? More space has been.
Expand the court that allows these players to have more room to actually do really cool shit that you like. And so if you're all just ramming the basket like in the 90s, I mean, look, everybody's got what they like. You're hardly the only person who doesn't like basketball today. But I think it just it's a totally different way of thinking about how you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in the sport. And that's why, to be honest, I think one of the motivations for me to write this book is that I don't think that this era has been particularly well understood because it looks so different than what so many of us have grown up on. It's as if it's a totally different sport. So I understand why you're looking at this and be like, what the fuck is this? Like, I get that, but I think it's sort of a time
we'll let the
that
FCC
we almost
know.
need to relearn what this is. It's a totally different sport.
It's interesting when and I've been watching the NBA for a very, very long time. It's actually my favorite sport.
But you're 21. How are you?
I'm 40. I'm 40.
I thought you said you're 21.
No,
okay.
No. You want to call me 21? I'm 21, but
he's 21 in the year 2060, so he hasn't been born yet.
Yeah, you're probably right. But
how old do you think I am?
You are 37. 37.
Okay. How old are you?
40.
Said? Okay, so we're about the same bracket of generation. Like, we grew up with the NBA and NBC.
How old are you? 35.
Okay,
so,
I thought I was going to get 32. Okay.
Yeah, so we grew up in the same NBA and NBC, like sort of Patrick Ewing, Michael Jordan,
the song,
the Blood in the Garden era of the Knicks, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my question to you is, what were your thoughts with the whole Kyrie Irving crap? I mean, this guy has been an absolute pathological idiot in the NBA ever since he walked on the court from Duke, and he was the number one pick from the Cleveland Cavaliers. This stuff came out, and he posted up a film that he wanted people to watch, and he had everybody liking it and all that other stuff. And then I didn't watch it, but I'm just appalled by his thoughts of where anti-Semitic thoughts from this film made any sense to what he was saying to the public and the press. What were your thoughts to Kyrie Irving after you heard this and not apologize really until they said, you know what, you're going to be suspended and we'll tell you when you could play again?
Yeah, he's a pretty stupid person doing pretty dangerous things. Those are my thoughts. So, sorry, I don't really have much.
No.
Wait, what was it? Run that way. What would you say? I'm sorry, I apologize. What was that?
I said he's a pretty stupid person with pretty dangerous thoughts.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, you got the stupid part right.
So what about Kevin Durant? He came out and takes shots at the organization last week. Is he trying to push himself out again, you think, inadvertently? Maybe he gets traded in a month or two?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about what he said after the Sacramento game?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
he wasn't wrong.
He wasn't wrong. I mean, it sort of spawned an interesting meta discussion sort of in our field where it's like, what he said is probably not particularly inspiring to Embiid Sumner and all those other players on the team. But like, as a media person, you kind of like that he was just honest and you just said the thing that like we all know. Yeah, he probably wants to be out again. I mean, it's very weird to sort of want to trade to put that out there, Pandora's box, and then it'll be fine after that. That doesn't usually happen. The only example of that happening really in NBA history, I mean, there's like Hakeem Olajuwon in the 90s and Kobe in 2007. So, yeah, I think he probably still wants out. I mean, there is also a lot of stuff changing there. They have a new coach. The guy they probably should have hired right all the way along instead of hiring Steve Nash. But, yeah, I mean, I think there's no question he's only hurting himself with sort of the way he's acted since Golden State. And I think that's just the bed that he's decided to make for himself. Still an amazing basketball player.